There have been debates about what exactly Buffalo is as a city. Is it a hockey city? Is it a football city? Is it a Sabre city? Is it a Bills city? I think the answer is none of the above. I think Buffalo is a lacrosse city.
I completely agree with you.
Always has been. Only championships in Buffalo.
I
Can't
was
believe we
gonna,
didn't realize it sooner.
I was gonna say, or I can do you one better. Maybe it's just a city of champions.
It's an arena of champions. We got a few
Well,
banners in there now.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's a start.
They
But good
truly
for the
are.
Bandits,
Yeah,
man.
they truly are an electric factory. Just last 2 years in the playoffs, just running through the competition, especially this year. Um,
Especially with they got the best goalie in the league. So when you got that, I mean,
Not a high bar.
Dude, in
Jonah's
early
favorite player.
in early March,
Check the
they were
stats.
like they were under 500.
I
Like
know
they,
the championship hangover was like in full effect,
yeah, it was looking like they weren't even going to make it back to the playoffs.
and then they like sat up in their chair and was like, "All right, I'm gonna start trying now," and just ran through the rest of the NL.
See what happens when you get on a hot streak. I'd love a playoff hot streak from one of our other two teams. I'd love the playoffs for one of them.
Josh Byrne just had to establish himself as the best athlete in Buffalo. I mean, he had
Him
in the
and
Might
Dan
be.
first
Bickler.
championship game, out of the 11 goals, he had a point on 10 of them. The only one he didn't was an empty netter. Like, that's just stupid. Or no, maybe that was Dane Smith. I don't know. But those two are just ridiculous, both of them.
That hidden ball trick was the craziest
Oh my
goal I've
god,
ever seen in my entire
that
life.
that's that's the most insane lacrosse play I think I've ever seen.
It was sick. It was really sick to watch. I was confused as hell watching the game. I was like, wait, like because the camera like cut away quick
I
and
was
I was
gonna,
just like, it's in the
yeah,
net?
yeah. They had the behind the net view, which probably helped honestly.
Yeah.
I remember them doing it a few years ago when I was just getting into it, but it was like a I don't know, it was like a quarterfinals game. But to do it in the championship for the game winning goal, like holy shit.
Did
Like
that turn
that's
out
just
to be the game winning goal?
I'm pretty
hmm
sure it was. That's
It
just
was.
that's absolute ice.
That's
That is
legendary stuff.
incredible.
Oh man,
Great stuff, man.
love to see some playoff magic in that building. Congrats to the Bandits. Back to the hockey team. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah,
I'm Christian.
And I'm JP.
and as always, we'll be talking to you about all things Buffalo Sabres hockey and even a little bit of the wider NHL and heck, even maybe a little NLL, seemingly. The Bandits keep tearing through the league year after year. Maybe you'll get some more talk on here. Maybe we will be the true Buffalo Sports Talk podcast. Who knows? On today's forecast of side of things, we're going to talk about Lindy Ruff finalizing his coaching staff. More so, the two promotions that were received by members of the Sabres organization. We're going to talk a little bit about some news surrounding a few of the Sabres pending UFAs. Talk a little about the prospects, two in particular, who are about to compete for the Memorial Cup, and give you a World Championships update, where a few Sabres are making headlines across seas. And then we'll talk a little bit wider NHL Playoff Talk, news around the league. We're into the third round. We are just about a month and a week away from the NHL draft, I believe. So
Season's winding down quick.
we're inching ever so closer to the real off season. Nobody really cares about the playoffs. Let's be honest here. This
No.
once
I
we
couldn't care less.
hopping back to the Sabres themselves. As I mentioned, this past week, Lindy Ruff finalized his coaching staff for the upcoming 2024-2025 NHL season, and there's some interesting things to talk about. So we'll start with the big news. So last week we talked a little bit about the Rochester Americans. Their playoff run came to a fairly quick end, quicker than would have wanted to be anticipated, given where they were and by the end of the regular season. But as soon as the season ended, talks shifted to possibly seeing Seth Appert move to a higher coaching position with the Sabres. This is something that's been theorized going back a month when he was even seemingly a candidate for the head coaching position for the Sabres, which obviously didn't end up happening. But Seth Appert gets the promotion to Buffalo Sabres assistant coach.
From the conversations that took place throughout the season, obviously, if you're a head coach of another team and your team is still alive, Appert addressed those questions of like, could you consider yourself being on the Sabres staff next season and all that? And he obviously like shut it down, in the classic coach fashion, just going, um, I'm worried about the team we have here and the job that needs to be done now. But if you asked me before they put Appert on the staff if I would have seen him up this season, I would have told you I wouldn't have seen it. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a welcome surprise in my eyes. I don't know what you guys expected, if you expected it or not. I think it's well earned.
I think after he was basically the interim head coach for those 2 games where Donnie was sick, that I wasn't expecting it, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it did happen. Because they could have easily just put Matt Ellis or any of the other assistants just as the head coach for that game, but instead they made the effort to call their head coach from down the thruway, an hour and a half away, for him to come coach 2 NHL games or 1 NHL game. So I think it does make sense. I think writing was on the wall. And we've mentioned that this is assuming Lindy doesn't stay on for too long. I think Seth Appert's the easy choice for the next head coach.
I think as soon as we started hearing his name for head coach, I guess looking back on it, it should have been obvious that something was coming no matter what. I feel like there was way too much smoke going on at once shortly before Lindy was hired, where you could just kind of dismiss it as just nothing whispers. But yeah, here we are. Seth Appert, assistant coach. So I think it's a good move. I think it's well earned. He's made his way up through the Sabres system. He's done great work with the Rochester Americans. Have his teams been perfectly structured? No. Have they had perfect seasons? No. But he was tasked with developing the key youthful players that you're seeing emerge with the current Sabres core. Jack Quinn, J.J. Peterka, Matthias Samuelsson, Yuri Kulik, Isaac Rosen, all those guys. He was basically, that was his main job. The playoff stuff, that's all gravy. I know some Rochester fans might not like to hear that, but it's sort of the truth. It's, at the very least, it's a developmental team, and especially given the way their roster construction has been, where if you look in the AHL playoffs, a lot of these teams still in it. They're older teams with fringe NHL, AHL guys who have been established, where the Rochester Americans, they put their young guys in key roles. And for the 2 playoff runs that took them deep under Appert's tenure, those were the guys that took them far. It was J.J. Peterka back in 2022, and then it was Yuri Kulik back in 2023. It was mostly what he set out to do, what he was tasked to set out to do, he accomplished. So if you look at his resume with the team, hey, he basically passes with flying colors in that regard. And a lot of what he succeeded with was the Amerks were always a high-flying offense and pretty good special teams team. With this promotion, he is now the guy that is going to be working with the forwards and with the power play.
God help the power play.
I think he's, at the very least, it's not going to be any worse than it was a year ago.
Don't you dare say that, because you're going to jinx it. Don't you dare say that. It could always get worse. If you've been a fan of this team for the past 10 years, it could always get worse, Jonah.
It would be really hard to have a worse power play than we had.
Could always
not
be
unattainable,
worse.
because they didn't finish in last. So
they did not.
I understand percentage-wise it can get worse, but the way it looked, it would be very hard to get worse with the talent that we have.
Who was last?
I don't even know. It wasn't San Jose. San Jose was like top 15, weirdly enough.
That's crazy. Sorry, JP, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say he did talk about the power play a little in his press conference, and it was some encouraging stuff. It wasn't just, oh, we need to work harder.
Oh, those power play quotes. Oh my god, I could gush about them. They were so good. They were so good. Lindy was talking about movement, talking about the bumper. Oh,
Yeah, it wasn't just
for anybody
yeah.
that's been following us. Oh my god, that it's been a long time coming.
It was
It
almost
feels
too much for
it,
Jonah to handle.
it feels good to win one. It just feels good. No, but it's all very encouraging stuff from what we've heard. Um, Obviously, the big shift is, well, I guess we can talk about the rest of the staff. So Appert alongside Amir Gulati, who is going to be the new video coordinator. Aside from those two, everybody else is staying. Marty Wilford still probably going to be the defensive and PK coach. Mike Bales obviously still going to be the goaltending coach after the magic he pulled off this year.
And those are both fine. Those are fine.
And then Matt Ellis. Matt Ellis will still be sticking around, but with Seth Appert taking the power play and forwards role, that means Matt Ellis will be getting a new spot, and that new spot is going to be up high in the press box, being more of an eye-in-the-sky type coach and kind of working more with the developmental side of things, which I believe is what he started out doing. And, something else we can talk about is Dan Girardi is not going to be continuing with the Sabres on that side of things. So I think Ellis just kind of slides into that developmental role.
Yeah, so everyone freaking out about Matt Ellis sticking around. How did Matt Ellis keep his job through all this? Are you kidding me? This is not everyone freaking out. Take a deep breath because he's not going to be behind the bench next year. You won't see him behind the bench.
I think what's funny is that going into last year, it really wasn't. It's just funny how things just switch on a dime. Like, I think some people would even forget that Matt Ellis was a coach going into last season, and by the end of it, he's like, got mobs in the streets, rioting, looting, you name it.
Scapegoats, man. So it's just when a team underperforms, a fan base, they will nitpick through everything to find what they think the problem is. And you know what? It was a pretty easy breadcrumb trail. I mean, you had a bad power play. They were like, okay, the players aren't executing, so what could we go to? The coaching staff. Who runs the power play? Oh, Matt Ellis runs the power play. Let's get on his you know what. And, by
Start
the end of the season, man, they're savages.
start criticizing his NHL career. Just going full after this. This guy was a nobody. Why is he coaching the power play? It's like, dude.
It's like that's not how that works,
Look
buddy.
at any other assistant coaching staff. You won't know any of them.
No, but like usually some of the best coaches were like very subpar players in the league.
Scotty Bowman never played in the NHL.
Right, yeah. Or
Greatest
like
coach of all time.
Wayne Gretzky, greatest player of all time. Terrible hockey coach. He wasn't good. He was very below average. I mean, he had like one good year with the Coyotes, and then it was awful. So it's like you can't really make that comparison across how a player played on the ice with how they could coach a team. That type of comparison it's not correct.
We did this with our power play coach before him, didn't we? With Kruger.
Yeah, who was running the power play for that team?
I remember we hated him too, and we were like, "How is this guy still have a job? Our power play and penalty kill sucks."
I forget. Was that the
I want
same
to
one?
throw out
Was
a
that the
name, but I
same
don't
one?
want to be wrong.
Was that the same one that hated Skinner?
I don't know. I'll throw out a name. I might be wrong though. Was it Steve Smith?
Steve Smith ran the defense, I think.
I don't know, but I remember there was a power play coach, and we didn't like him a few years ago either.
No, a lot of people didn't like Steve Smith because I do remember that name because he was the guy. He played for the Oilers in the '80s and he scored on his own net in the Stanley Cup final.
And then we hired him as coach.
Yeah. What is with us in hiring ex-Oilers players and coaches?
No wonder we couldn't get to the playoffs. Guy scores on his own net in the playoffs.
So the Sabres have their coaching staff locked in. Lindy Ruff is head coach, Seth Appert as your forwards and power play coach, Mike Bales as your goalie coach, Matt Ellis as a development coach, and Marty Wilford as your defense and penalty killing coach. The last thing we probably should bring up here is it's a bit unprecedented to have. I mean, you could almost say Lindy Ruff had zero, I don't want to say input, but he didn't bring any of his own guys with him. You know, I think no matter who the next head coach was, Appert was probably going to be a part of this staff, or Adams was going to put in the good word for him. So I can see why maybe some people would be a little, I guess, underwhelmed to not see any outside voices being brought in.
Yeah, it's understandable. But I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't think any of us are really surprised. We kind of all said that this probably will happen, that it might have been one of the reasons why Lindy was brought in, because he wouldn't have minded who his assistants were, I guess, or he would have been fine with whoever. So I guess we'll see how it develops. I mean, maybe next year it's different, but it is definitely something to point out. I don't think you ever see coaches who come from other teams who don't have someone who's from their, own line.
But let me pitch you a scenario. So I hope this doesn't happen, but let's say they have another bad season next year and they're already calling for like some sort of coaching shakeup. Do you like put Appert in after that? Because the obvious, you could see it. Like they brought Lindy Ruff in 2 years. After that, Appert's going to take over. That's probably what they wanted to do. But if they have a bad season, do they throw Appert in, or do they just shake it up completely again?
Probably, because what the hell else are you going to do?
I feel like if there's a scenario where Lindy, if he somehow gets fired in his first season, first of all, what the hell's going on?
Oh my God, dude.
Second of all,
I couldn't handle that.
I feel like if it gets to that point, I mean, Adams, is he going to go with him?
Yeah, he's going.
Yeah, like if it's that bad that soon, you would have to think that it's a total. I don't even know. I don't even want to know what Terry Pegula would do in that situation. I don't want to know.
If sell the team, that would be so bad on so many levels, because not only are you probably going into another sort of like retool / rebuild type of area, but now you're messing with the past. Like you ruin a longtime alumna of the Buffalo Sabres, someone who coached this team through some of the best games in history, and now you feel like you just used them and cast them aside like a used napkin. Like, so let's hope that doesn't happen in the first season.
Yeah, that wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, let's hope you didn't just speak this into existence, you
guys,
idiot.
Picture this: the Sabres have the most nightmarish scenario imaginable. What do they do?
Picture this: it only gets worse.
I told you it could always get worse.
All right, so that's Lindy Ruff's staff. Obviously, the big news: Seth Appert, new power play and forward coach. That's going to be exciting. We're going to see where that goes. Lindy Ruff talked about how he was already in because he even stated himself, I think it was on Sabres Live, that he really didn't know who Seth Appert was before even being hired, but with the conversations they had, it seemed like he had a good first impression, and should be fun to continue into the season, and we'll see where Seth Appert's career kind of goes down the road. See if he's the next man up.
I'm sorry, that just sounds so dumb. Yeah, I didn't even know who this guy was. Now he's my assistant coach. Yeah, I don't know. I was just told he's going to be the guy.
Sounds like a Sabres type of situation, like their head coach calling people, cold calling their fans about renewing season tickets.
I saw that. For anybody who doesn't know, there was a Reddit post that I don't go on Sabres Reddit that much for obvious reasons.
That's a dangerous place.
Reddit itself is a dangerous place.
I just so happened to log on, and that was the first post that popped up. I guess Lindy Ruff was someone claimed that Lindy Ruff called his dad about renewing season tickets. So
pretty cool though. That is cool.
You got him in. That's pretty cool.
It's cool, but why is the head coach calling fans?
Yeah, I want Terry to call me.
Imagine he's got like a brochure in front of him. He's got his readers on. He can barely see
We
the
here
paper.
at
He's
the
like,
Buffalo Sabres
Read from the
treasure your
script.
it's like we have a quarter season ticket deal going on, and what is this number, Mary? What do you think? Oh,
$22 $2.
$22.
Oh, right, because that's me. Right, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God.
We here at the Buffalo Sabres, we value your time and your money very much. We would be pleased if you would join us for another season.
And
I'd renew.
we're making improvements to the arena. Here's a picture of our roof. They just released that. That's big news.
No more
Can't even,
leaks.
can't even tell what really happened. Like there's just white on the roof.
First thing Christian sends to our group chat is like a guy falling through the roof of a convenience store.
I mean, like, I'm glad they're doing it, but like, don't pass it off as some big thing when you can't even like tell what the difference is. It was just
It's like,
funny.
someone goes, oh, thank God they're doing the bare minimum. Like, yeah, I guess, but it's so long overdue. It's like you can't even post about it because it's like you should have done this so long ago.
What
Like
if they
there were so many maintenance issues with that roof.
What if they just put like a bunch of LED boards in there and made it like a Vegas Sphere 2.0?
That'd
Just
be
start
kind of sick.
projecting like random stuff. No, but like random stuff gets projected at night in Buffalo. Just like random videos of oil wells. All right, moving on. So, a little bit of news here, or I guess I'll put in the rumor mill because it is the fourth period and they can be a little hit or miss with some of their Sabres reports. But according to David Pagnotta of the fourth period, Victor Olofsson will be hitting free agency. I will pass it off to JP from here.
Nah, I'll pass it to Christian. In the past, yes, I had some critical things, but last year I actually felt bad for him. So I'll pass it off to Christian, who might be his biggest fan.
Oh, my king. Where did it all go wrong? Man, it seems like the end of an era, You kind of you're closing another chapter of the pre Kevin Adams Buffalo Sabres. I wish Olofsson the best. But you know, he was dimensional. That was it. He could score, and when he wasn't like when he wasn't on a good power play or he wasn't scoring, he was a ghost out there. So $4.75 million, money well spent elsewhere, but I hope he finds his game somewhere on another team because another team could definitely play to his strengths more. He might not be an every night kind of player, but if you need a little offensive jolt here and there, maybe you could, put him on the top line somewhere, and I'm sure he'll score. But yeah, it's end of an era again. I mean, people are already talking about Jeff Skinner on his way out too, so also, interesting note, I think Victor Olofsson is the last Sabre to go through arbitration, and that had to be like 4 years ago because they were talking about Luukkonen going through arbitration this year. But
Was that
I heard I was listening to WGR this morning and they were talking about a scenario of him going to arbitration, but
did he go with? Was it this contract that he was on? I don't remember.
I'm almost certain it was. Because I know he went through arbitration.
That because I think he signed a 1-year deal.
Oh, maybe it was.
He signed a 1-year deal in Adams' first season. I forget. If this current contract was the one he went through arbitration on, I think it's the only time Adams has gone through that process.
I don't think he ever did. Sabre signed Victor Olofsson avoid arbitration hearing October 29, 2020.
Well, it's probably I guess they're probably gearing up for it.
Well, I'm sure they were, but it looks like they did avoid it.
Well, the interesting thing, Victor Olofsson has been a part of the Sabres organization since 2014. That's only 2 years less than Zemgus Girgensons.
I didn't even realize he was drafted that early. I thought he was drafted in like 2016 or something.
181st overall in the 7th round of the 2014 draft.
That is a Darcy Regier masterclass right there.
Tim Murray masterclass.
That was a Tim Murray draft?
That was a gift from the horse breeder himself.
I thought Regier was still drafting in 2014. Oh no, that was a Reinhardt draft. Yeah, you're right. It is Tim Murray. And
Isn't it just
then
funny how GMs they just blur together at this point.
yeah, when they all suck, yeah. But yeah, it's great value for a guy you found in the seventh round. You wish your past GMs would have found more of those guys. Too bad they can't draft outside the first round.
Hey, I think that's if you take a step back. Look, Victor Olofsson, very frustrating player, very one-tool player. We all know that. This is a guy who's been in the NHL for now, what, 5 seasons?
5, 6 seasons, yeah.
He was a seventh round pick, 181st overall. Tore up the SHL, had a great rookie season with the Rochester Americans, which it's funny because I don't know. I just have funny memories of everybody calling him a rookie back then. He was like 23, but first season in AHL, great season, 30 goals, comes up, gets placed with Jack Eichel onto his wing. I think wasn't he a Calder finalist that year? That's funny to look back on. And is his time with the Sabres just ran out, especially with this core. He I don't know. He carved out a nice career for himself. I think given where he was drafted, this is basically as much of a home run as it can be.
He was our Brock Purdy.
I'm looking at all of Sabre's seventh round picks. There's actually a few notable ones I didn't realize there was. Do you guys know any of them?
What's the draft year?
JP's dropping in. He's bringing back Sabres trivia.
What's the draft year?
2000.
2000?
Round 7, pick 220.
And he played a long time?
How long did he play with
He was a very
them?
good player for us. Years. He was with us in our best teams. Okay, he had 231 points.
Finneganov?
Nope. He was US. He had a nice nickname.
Paul Gostad?
Yeah.
Wow, he was seventh round, wasn't he?
Jeez, seventh
And then
round.
also 2 years later, or where is it? 3 years later, Nathan Pesh.
Nathan Page.
Nathan Page.
Oh man, the
I
legend
see-
himself.
Yeah. I'm
Buttery
trying to see if
last
there's any other
name.
ones. I was gonna say that Olofsson was our best seventh round pick ever, but obviously Gostad's definitely
Goose.
surpassed that.
I mean, he was probably like the more well-rounded player, but I don't know.
Olsen had more of a
Goals.
spark to his game when
Better
when he
goal
when he
songs,
had
too.
it. That too. I'm gonna miss ABBA so much.
Oh, here's another seventh round pick. Christian's favorite Amerks player has been for years now.
Linus Weisbach was a
Linus
seventh round
Weisbach was
pick.
seventh round pick.
That's
Yeah.
a pretty good value pick. Good
Yeah.
AHL guy.
Tyson Kozak.
I
It's
forgot about
Kozak,
Kozak,
that's right.
man.
Yeah.
Yep.
What happened to the hype train around
Stay
him?
tuned. Nah,
He's
I mean,
still
look,
doing good down there.
they kept him in the AHL when he was 18. I don't think he was physically. Well, I shouldn't say he wasn't physically ready, but it's a slower path. So I think that
We could
from
see
what
him.
I've watched and from what I've read about him, I think it's just a slower process. All right, on to the other UFA, which is it's very funny how Pagnotta structured this. He sends out the tweet like breaking. Victor Olofsson will be hitting UFA. And then he just drops it in a subsequent article that, oh yeah, Girgensons is expecting to hit the market too. It's like, dude, where have you been? Olofsson has been gone. Like he was on the Sabres roster. He was not.
got the bigger news wrong.
He was hardly a Buffalo Sabre. I don't think anybody. Who
He was on the
It's
way
like
out.
breaking guys,
2 years ago.
Victor Olofsson's leaving. No.
No,
Like
this can't be happening. No.
not even halfway through the first year of his contract, he was on his way out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
The bigger news. He got the bigger news. He got it backwards, man. The bigger news is Girgensons possibly leaving, which from everything I've seen, it looks like it's true. I think his time is done here.
Yeah, so according to Pagnotta, Girgensons, who is 30, is expected to test the free agent market this July. He made $2.5 million on his last deal. It's unclear what type of contract he is looking for next.
Future Pittsburgh Penguin. Calling it right now. He will be a Pittsburgh Penguin.
Yeah, it's we've talked a little bit about this. It sort of feels weird. It would be weird if they brought him back. coming out of those locker cleanout interviews where all they talked about was accountability, it kind of shined a negative light on where I think the leadership was at that time. And I think even Friedman's talked about it at points where like guys who have left the Sabres, including vets, thought that they needed more of a pushback voice in the locker room. And it just kind of seemed like the leadership core, it got them to a certain place. It couldn't take them any further. And as much as Girgensons has been, a silent, lead by example type player, it's just not what the Sabres needed anymore. So it's possibly looking like this is the last we will see of Zemgus Girgensons.
The last Darcy Regier guy to fall.
It makes sense. It could have made sense last year. This just goes against everything that Adams was talking about after the trade deadline. He was talking about extending him, and now he's gone a few months later. So I'll believe it when I see it. It just feels weird with how much Adams is talking about him.
I agree with that. I just think before the trade deadline, they get Byram, then they go on that quick hot streak. People think they have a chance to get in, and then they completely fumble the ball. And they didn't torpedo to the bottom of the standings, but it was a very painful end.
It was just
it was a slow death kind of. I think maybe he just realized, especially coming out of those locker cleanouts, that as much as I love him, as much as there's nothing, literally zero wrong with him. Like there's nothing wrong. If people don't like him, it's probably because he didn't live up to his draft pedigree. But for what he is a perfectly fine player, a perfectly fine leader. They just need something fresh, I think.
Yeah.
And Terry loves him, so that's going to be tough for him.
Does he get a video tribute when he comes back?
Oh, absolutely.
He has to, right?
He's top 10 in Sabres all-time games played, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, he is one
he's
of
up there.
I will say, like, you talk about guys like LaFontaine, like the greatest Buffalo Sabres of all time. Based on tenure, he's a great Buffalo Sabre. He's been here for over a decade.
Based on that, he is one of the greatest Sabres of all time. Yes, I would agree with that.
No, that's not what I was trying to say.
If we go by minimum 8 years played on the Sabres, he is up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's 10th, 688.
Adding on to that, we've had a few people reach out, or there's whispers that he maybe sold his house in Buffalo, and obviously it's not a great indicator, but hey, who knows? Maybe he's just buying another house in Buffalo. You never know. You don't want to run with these things, and even with this report, it's the fourth period. Always take it with a grain of salt. But I think Olofsson, Girgensons, they're two guys that I think you can very, very easily see moving on from the Sabres.
He's upgrading. He's getting a bigger house because he's getting a payday.
Last thing to take away from that article, there was a brief mention. I'll just quote the article itself. Sabres GM Kevin Adams is expected to be active this summer as he looks to strengthen his roster for next season, and there is a growing belief he will consider moving the 11th overall draft pick in next month's NHL draft if the right deal for an immediate upgrade presents itself. So in other news, the GM will trade his pick if he likes the trade.
Shocker. As is every other GM in the entire league.
Yeah. I would all insiders are sort of guilty of it. I just love it when they say he's considering moves, but he's not going to do anything unless he really likes the deal. It's like,
okay.
Well, thanks, Frege.
Thanks for a nothing burger. We know that he's looking. He was saying how he needs to upgrade this team. There's one of two ways of doing that. Free agency. Three. Draft, free agency, and trades. So
he doesn't do the second one. We don't do the second one.
We don't do it well.
No,
we try.
We don't like the second one.
Yeah,
we don't like the second one.
No, but if the price is right, I'm fine.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does do it, but at the same time, I don't know. You don't see. What was the last pure draft pick for player trade? I don't think there really was one.
You don't really see that a lot
Risto?
In the NHL.
Was Risto the last NHL one? I guess who was
technically got Haig back, didn't we? in that
Robert
trade.
Hagg came
yeah.
back yet.
Yeah, but
So
like it was
not-
this. I guess what I mean is the main centerpiece. I don't mean like it's a player plus a later first round pick for a higher first round pick. Because I guess that was kind of like what Romanov on the Islanders. That's what happened to him when the Islanders traded for him. I don't know. That's the last one I can remember. So
Mm.
we'll see where
I-
it goes. People are obviously going to want the pick to be traded because it's just more fun.
I mean, I'm cool with keeping the pick, but I'm saying it again. I really want to try and make the John Tavares trade work. I really think we could do it. Like it would not be hard at all. Toronto wants cap space. They want to go in a different direction. The core four hasn't worked. Treleving, his job's probably not on the line, but Shanahan's job is 100% on the line this year. So if they need to like do some serious surgery to this roster, he's got 1 year left. You retain salary, open it up a little bit, then you got more spending money. It works perfectly because we need a center as well, and he would be the perfect center for this team.
Do you want me to rain on your parade a bit?
Yes, do it.
Chris Johnston. So he obviously has his show, and Steve Dangle went on it as a guest, and they were playing this game called it was just called Staying or Going. And,
Oh, I saw this. I saw this.
And Chris Johnston was just when they got to Tavares, he was pretty confident that he's not going to go anywhere.
Mm.
Um,
But they want to move on from Marner. I'm
Yeah.
not saying we should go get Marner because it's going to cost a lot more,
it's
but
not,
also
yeah.
also it's like I really think Toronto is just like why are they're scapegoating the guy. I understand he hasn't shown up in the playoffs, but newsflash, the entire team hasn't shown up in the playoffs the last 4 years. Why are you they're picking on Marner because like they're talking about grit and everything now? It's like, do you understand what you sound like now? You sound like every boomer hockey take of all time. Like, no, there's no passion. There's no heart in this player. There's no this. Are you just going to sit on the bench and sulk? That's what you're going to do. I heard some idiot ramble about that one time. I'm like, dude, you're worrying about the wrong things, A, and B.
You're turning
like,
into a Leafs apologist here.
Me?
Yeah,
A
seriously.
little bit. You're defending
No,
them.
I'm just saying that I think
Leave them
Mitch
alone.
Marner's a
They're
great
trying their best.
Take off that hat.
I'm just saying Mitch Marner's a great player, and honestly, them moving on from him, they're all like super excited about it. Moving on from Mitch Marner will make your team worse. From whatever you get back in return from him, whether it's draft picks or anything like that, it's the same as a Ryan O'Reilly trade, a Jack Eichel trade. You could rationalize it however you want.
Stefan Diggs trade.
Stefan Diggs trade, whatever.
Yeah, but
You lose this trade because you're losing Mitch Marner.
they have to make a move. So like
That's
I don't
fine.
know.
It's going to be Marner.
They
That's
have to do
fine.
They have
something.
to. It's time. It's also such a weird case with him. He is both, I think, is he worth the money he gets? It's like yes, but also no. Like I don't know.
But
He's
I'm
just-
sick of hearing about the Toronto fans going like, "Oh, our team's going to be so much better without Mitch Marner on the roster." Like, no, it's not. Like, I understand you have like a gripe with him and you think he has no heart, no grit. The guy knows how to put the puck in the net in the regular season, and I understand the playoff frustration, but the automatic, just saying, "Oh, we're going to be better without him." It's like, no, I don't see that.
Oh, sorry. I just woke up in the middle of that. Were we talking about Stefan Diggs? That sounded like exactly like Stefan Diggs' discourse.
Yeah, you're very well might be.
The Bills Leafs parallels just won't end.
No,
But
they're
moving on,
very
moving on.
similar teams.
Moving on. I didn't mean to turn that. I don't even know how that got into like a Marner tirade there.
Because Christian brought up Tavares, and then
Oh yeah,
it just spiraled.
just spiraled from there. All right, so on to a little prospect talk, shining some light on the upcoming Memorial Cup. The Sabres have two fairly high-profile prospects partaking in this 4-team playoffs. Matthew Savoie and Vsevolod Komarov. Savoie having an as advertised playoffs for the Moose Jaw Warriors. He was over, I think, point per game, but it was actually, I think, Jagger Firkus just having an absolutely nuts playoffs for Moose Jaw as well. I think he won playoff MVP for the WHL. Komarov, on the other hand, he had a tremendous playoffs. and ended up winning QMJHL Playoff MVP for his squad. So Komarov's always he's always been a guy. When if you go to any of the prospect camps or the challenge, you immediately pick up on this guy as someone. He just sticks out because A, he's friggin' huge. B, he's got that sort of stature that he doesn't have the everyday sort of, I don't even know how to call it, just posture. He's a very bulky, and he's that type of player. And he's always been a guy that you always keep your eye on at these camps, at least myself, and just be like, he's always been one of those guys where you're like, let's see where he is a few years down the road. And he's done a very good job in the QMJHL. It's going to be fun to watch him in the Memorial Cup.
I think it's funny because when I saw that he was QMJHL Player of the Year, I immediately sent it to you guys. I was like, oh, this is great. Like another great guy coming up through the pipeline. And both of you immediately rained on my parade. You were like, this guy can't skate. He's never going to be in the NHL.
That was the other part. When you say, hey, let's see this guy in a few years, that was kind of the other part of the game that you notice at the prospect the challenge or the camps. I was trying to dance around that. Yeah, he's never really been a great skater. And I'm not going to act like I haven't watched any of his stuff in the QMJHL, really. So I can't really say whether or not it's improved, but he's very much like Samuelsson, where like when Mattias Samuelsson was drafted by the Sabres in 2018, he had the size, he had the reach, he had the defensive ability, he had a pretty, underrated ability to keep the cycle going in the offensive zone. He just couldn't skate. But then out of nowhere, between 2019 to 2021, I think he got a new skating coach, completely changed the way he skated, and suddenly he was right back on the right back on the rise. That was just kind of the missing piece from his tool set. So I think Komarov is really similar in that way where, hey, if he can get that skating figured out, and he's got a chance to sort of be a player, be a potential Sabres roster guy someday.
Yeah, it's just nice to see a Sabres defensive prospect
right-handed
doing very good. And he's got some offensive skills. He had a few really nice goals, nice assists. So it's just nice. You don't see many of our defensemen stand out, at least prospect-wise.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I didn't really mention at these camps, it's like because you would think like, hey, there's this bulky defenseman that can't really skate well. He's got to be like a liability in his own zone or in the offensive zone. It's really never been the case. It'll kind of catch your eye that he's able to kind of keep up in that regard. It's just really more so the skating and just kind of keeping up with the competition. So it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see how Komarov fares. I don't know if he's playing Savoie, but we'll see. We'll see if they meet at all in the Memorial Cup.
And I believe he'll be with the Amerks next year too. So I think he'll also be one of the prospects that we will be watching next year even more. So,
yeah, that could be a big help for them.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to a little bit of Sabres updates. Some Sabres are still playing hockey across seas in the World Championships, and a few of them are playing very well. And one of them in particular, I think we are all very happy to see, not just playing well, not just playing very well, he's thriving. Dylan Cozens is leading the tournament in goals. He has 8 in 7 games.
Where was that all season?
Scoring regression, positive scoring regression. It's hitting late.
I'll be everyone else on Twitter right now. Where was that all season?
All those months from November to March when he was like six goals under expected, we found him. They're right there.
Do you think any of that had to do with the coaching staff? Because he immediately went to the Worlds, different coaching staff, possibly different system, yeah. And now he's lighting it up. Like,
I don't think it's kind of tough to dissect because he just didn't look good for any prolongated point in the season. Like, he had individual good performances I can still remember, but it's just such a weird year-over-year thing that Some people will point to him getting his face mashed in by Hathaway early in the season. Other people will point to Don Granato. Other people will say he's just not that good. It's tough. It's tough to exactly decipher. Maybe it was just a bad year. It just is what it is. But it's good to see him finding his groove at the World Championships, a place that the past 3 years there have been Sabres every single year. They perform well in the World Championships, and then they have a fantastic following season for the Sabres. Back in 2021, it was Tage Thompson for the U.S. The year after, it was Dylan Cousins for Canada. And then last year, it was J.J. Peterka for Team Germany. And maybe you're seeing it again for Dylan Cousins. It's good to see him doing well. A few of those have been friggin' snipes. Some power play production on the wing as well, and even had a big overtime winner the other day. So it's very important that he got back on track more than anything. It's just good to see him performing well again.
Yeah, I think at the very least, even if you don't want to blame it, on coaching, like you go to these World Championships and, you just probably let loose a little more, and he was able to play his game more, and he wasn't thinking about his expectations anymore. He was just playing hockey. So I think that's what he needs to get back to, and it's been really nice to see.
10 points in 8 games, 8 of those being goals for Dylan Cousins. I think I said 7 games earlier. That was not updated to today. So 10 points, 8 goals, 8 games, Dylan Cousins. Phenomenal tourney so far. Not too far behind him, J.J. Peterka. 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points in 8 games.
He's
Unfortunately, Team Germany is not. They are out after today after losing to Dylan Cousins and the rest of Team Canada. He's going to be so much fun to watch in the Olympics, man. Can you imagine? Because he's going to be playing with Leon Draisaitl. Oh my God, that combination is going to be unreal. Or Stützle.
Imagine a line of imagine a line of him, Stützle, and Draisaitl.
Oh my God. I can't wait for the Olympics. Looking at the rest of the tournament, jumping back over to Team Canada, Owen Power and Bowen Byram have been very, very good. Owen Power had, I think, a 4-point performance the other day. Bowen Byram's chipped in with a few goals and nice assist. Also chipped in with a nice spear to Jesse Puljujarvi, which earned him a nice 1-game suspension. So already looking to improve the Sabres net front presence there. You love to see that. And then there's Rasmus Dahlin, who didn't receive a suspension, but did get kicked out of a game for absolutely putting his back into another guy's head.
They're so soft.
I thought that one was interesting, where because I tried to freeze frame it, he leaves his feet, but I think it's after contact. I don't know. The international tournaments they're a lot more restrictive on what you can and can't get away with. So Dahlin was penalized in that game, but otherwise he's been great. Had a huge goal for Team Sweden today against Finland. It didn't end up being the game winner, but Sweden would go on to win in overtime, which he also had an assist on. And the goal he had was the patented Rasmus Dahlin inside-outside, cut down the wing, and just put it past the goalie. Great stuff from him as well. So the Sabres are all performing well at the Worlds. Victor Olofsson even chipping in. He had one last nice Dahlin to Olofsson one-timer on the power play, just for old time's sake.
Proper send-off.
All right, let's hop a bit around the NHL. It's been a little bit since we've talked. I don't think we discussed the second round at all, but here we are, conference finals. We're down to the Final Four. Dallas versus Edmonton and Florida versus New York. Florida taking Game 1 from the New York Rangers, which included a goal by Alexis Lafreniere. Not for the Rangers, but against the Rangers. And Game 1 against Dallas and Edmonton is currently going on now. I don't know the score.
It is tied 2-2.
They tied it. Wow.
Tyler Seguin, the highest paid man in the league.
Does he have both?
The game. No, oh wait, no. Does he have both? No. He does. Yeah, he does.
There you go. The $13 million man.
Getting his money's worth.
Dallas just looks so good. Yeah. And Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven, like the two youngest guys on the roster. essentially being like their. I mean, at least in Johnston. I mean, Johnston's been. He's got to be the Conn Smythe favorite right now. He's got to
Hmm.
be. Just an insane team, top to bottom. They are the team to beat Edmonton because they are so deep.
Yeah. It's funny how like once you're such a good team, you could just get rookies and throw them on your roster, and it just feels like they work every
They still
single
got
time.
Maverick Bork in the
Yeah,
AHL.
just like it just works. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about development. They're just like ready to go, it seems like. But that's the mark of a good organization.
Yeah, their drafting has just been on another level in recent years. Ever since they snagged Heiskanen, Robertson, and Ottinger in the same draft, it's just been a
That's
crazy track record.
that's like comparable to the what was the year the Bills got Singletary, Knox, and who was the other one? Wasn't there another guy?
I don't know if that's comparable.
Well, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. They were my Stanley Cup picks. Still going, so still better than both of you.
Well, Christian, your Stanley Cup pick, they are out. Well, when we checked in last time, you picked the Bruins.
Oh, right, I did. Yeah. I did that to jinx them. You're welcome.
I was going to say thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to
You're
go.
welcome.
I didn't want to know if you wanted to go into them a little bit. Just cut open the wound a bit more.
Didn't he also say they missed the playoffs this year? Like, did he pick them as the Stanley Cup and also say to?
He went to both extremes.
Yeah, what the heck?
He's like, it's so over for them. Never mind, they're so back. They're
Well,
winning.
I was
And you were wrong about both of them.
right. So this offseason, when we do the Atlantic Division preview, I'm going to pick them to win the division.
Where will the
So-
Sabres be placed?
Sabres will be placed in 8th place, all the way at the bottom.
Okay.
I'm trying the reverse psychology thing as much as I can.
Hopefully it works. But yeah, Bruins winning game 1 and then just basically getting shellacked the rest of the series against Florida, barely squeaking out a win in game 5 to force a game 6, and then losing with 45 seconds to or like a minute and a half to go in game 6. You hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see it.
But
More
at
than
the
that.
same time, you love to see it.
How about the Carolina Hurricanes? I thought, honest to God, I thought they were going to do it. I thought they were going to force a game 7. What a collapse in game 6. That is tough.
It's funny.
Chris Kreider, natural hat trick. He's making
Yeah.
kids cry in the stands. He's giving a stick away at the end of the game to a Carolina fan. Oh my God.
The Rangers fans can thank me because the three of us were together and the Hurricanes were up 3-0. And I was like, yeah, Jonah's going to have to eat his words on the next podcast. And the next time we find out what the score is, oh, yeah, they're tied 3-3 and then they lost 4-3. You could thank me. But Jonah was very happy. He loves the Hurricanes.
I think we've found our new San Jose Sharks. Just the team to dominate the regular season year in, year out, and just get nothing done in the playoffs. I'm sorry. They have 0 wins in the conference finals since Brindamore took over.
They've had 0 wins in the conference finals since they played us in the conference finals 18 years ago.
Is that true? No, is that true? Because remember they got there the one year against Pittsburgh.
They got swept twice.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think the year the Penguins beat the Red Wings back in like 2008 or 9.
Mm,
I only remember because I just remember Evgeny Malkin doing the spinorama no look goal on Cam Ward for his hat trick that year.
It might have been the last time they won the conference finals was against us, but they've made it back a few times.
I'll fact
Nah.
check.
I just vividly remember Evgeny Malkin going angry Gino on them. In any case, Carolina Hurricanes are out. We actually got news tonight. Don Liddell might be on the move. He might not get renewed as GM, but Rod Brindamore, on the other hand, loses and gets a nice 5-year extension. So, no surprise. We talked about this a lot. He was not leaving. He was not leaving Carolina. It just made no sense.
Hmm. No, yeah, I never expected him to leave unless there was some crazy offer tabled for him. So, this is just business as usual. I was never expecting him to come here either. Even with the Kevin Adams ties, I just never saw it as a real possibility, no matter how much we wanted to believe it. But
Christian was correct, by the way. They were swept
They got swept
every
that
time.
year too.
told you, yeah.
They got swept.
If the Sabres didn't have somebody break their arm, get concussed, get a staph infection, someone else broke their bones too. If they didn't have
They had four defensemen out.
AHL defense, I mean, we were talking about Nathan Pace earlier. He played a game in that series.
You know who else played a game in that series? What was it? Doug
Janik, maybe.
Janik, whatever. I think he had a goal in that game. He had a goal in
Was
game
he the one
7.
was he the one that scored in game 7?
He had the first goal, I'm pretty sure. He had like a long shot from the point that found its way through.
Oh my god. So cursed.
Like
Yeah,
everyone was just dead. And just leaving bodies on the side of the road.
It's crazy. It's literally like 4 of your top 4 defensemen just gone. Just gone.
Imagine like the Sabres defenseman this year without Byram Dahlin, Samuelson, and Power. They already lost Samuelson, but like imagine all 4 of those are out. So
You got
fun exercise.
you got like Jeremy Davies on the
Yeah,
top pair.
I was gonna say fun exercise. Those 4 are out. What is your
Oh my
game
God.
7 Carolina defense looking like with this roster? It is first of all, your first pair is Jacob Bryson and probably Cale Clegg.
First thing I'm doing is signing Lawrence Pilot to quarterback my power play.
That is what I was
Yoki
going to
Haru
say.
will
That
play
is
with
what I will
Pilot.
say.
And who is your 5 and 6? Jeremy Davies and
Bringing up Komarov. Bring him up.
And all right, we'll bring Komarov up.
Oh God. Hey, you want to talk about bad playoff luck? Brock Besser, man. You get a blood clot before game 7.
Oh my
I was
God,
I was
yeah.
getting immediate flashbacks. Like it's almost like one of your best players just gone. Brutal
awful.
stuff. Brutal playoff luck.
By the way, Doug Janik, he played 10. So he was in Rochester for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full seasons over the course of 7 years. So he was called up a couple of times. He played 10 regular season games with the Sabres, and he played 5 postseason games. He had 1 point, and the only point he had was that game 7 goal.
That's
That was
legendary.
the only point Doug
That's
Janik had for the
that's-
Buffalo Sabres in his career.
That's
That's
legendary
insane.
stuff.
That is nuts.
Yeah, I played in the NHL. Yeah, I scored 1 goal in game 7.
In the other 10 games he played as a 15 or 14, including playoffs, nothing. No points. Just penalty minutes.
Showed up when it mattered most.
He had
He
a
did
bunch
his
of
job.
penalty minutes.
He did his job.
Yep.
All right. Looking around the NHL, there's been a lot of coaching hires since the last time we talked. Most unsurprising of all, besides Brendan Moore being extended, Craig Berube goes to Toronto.
Surprise, surprise.
Kind of saw it coming,
This is
right?
Open secret.
Yeah.
Hey, what makes me happy is the Sabres kicked tires on him, and he was interested in the Sabres job, but Adams decided to go with Ruff. So we could have had him. It wasn't a matter of him not
Mhm.
wanting to be here. It was just us not wanting to go in that direction.
It's an interesting case study. Like, let's say his name wasn't Lindy Ruff. Let's just say you put his resume on someone else. It's like who would you go after? Like a coach that's like top 5 in wins all time, but he's never reached the hump or gotten over the hump? Or do you go after the guy who has shorter career, but he's got the ring? It's an interesting thought exercise. I think I'm happy with the way they went. Obviously, I'm not dissent. I think you can't go wrong. I think is the main point there. No decision's a wrong one,
Mm-mm.
unless you're signing Travis Green for 4 years, like the Ottawa Senators did. What the hell? 4 years for Travis Green?
Coaching contracts don't mean anything. You could fire him whenever you want. But still, yeah, it's
How did you get
Travis
4?
Green,
how,
man.
like,
That's
how
a
do you
name.
like what? 4 years.
Head scratcher.
4 years.
Well, that's
Does
what
the-
happens when Berube was not interested in them. Like when their top coaching hire was not interested.
That's true. Yeah.
Does he have much of a track record? Like wasn't he was an assistant, right?
He had like one deep playoff run. And I put massive quotations around deep. It was with Vancouver in the bubble where they lost into game.
Oh,
They lost in game 7 of the semifinals to
so
Vegas.
so the third round because there was the play-in and
Yeah,
then there
so
was
you could
round
call
one and
that
two.
deep because they had 3 round wins, I guess, but they made it to the second round. But aside from that, it's just like really
They had two
mediocre
round
track
wins.
record. I know we
Yeah,
dump on Ottawa a lot this podcast, but come on, you're giving us the material here.
you make it easy. But don't worry, us, Ottawa, and Detroit are the three amigos, and we always will be because none of us can make the playoffs.
All right, last one. Getting some news today. Sheldon Keefe is the guy in New Jersey.
Chief Keef.
I think that's interesting for them. I honestly thought I wanted to kind of see Woodcroft go there, but Keefe was obviously the other big name besides Berube. But once Berube went to Toronto, it's gonna be interesting to see what he does there because you look at Keefe's regular season record, obviously amazing.
Hmm.
I guess we'll find out how inflated it was by the Leafs' star power in the regular season.
It'll be so funny if the Leafs and the Devils run into each other in the playoffs next year. Wouldn't that wait, with the seeding though, wouldn't that have to be the conference finals?
Or if like New Jersey's a wild card team and Toronto wins the division.
Right, right. Okay, so let's imagine they like run into each other in the first round. It'd be so funny. So funny if the Devils knocked them out with their
It would be
former
very on
coach.
brand. Very, very on brand. Moving on here, a couple of NHL awards have been announced. Alexander Barkov, he wins the Selke. No surprise there. He was tremendous for them this season. But pretty interesting. Sam Reinhart gets the second most first place votes out of all the players. I think he came in third, though, overall, which I hate that voting system. It's so stupid. You get more first place votes, but you're lower because it's like a point based whatever. But
I did see that one Jesper Bratt got a fifth place vote
Scott
somehow.
Scott Lawton got one.
Who's voting for this stuff, man?
It's ridiculous.
But
Yeah, McKinnon got one too. It's like, when has McKinnon ever been the Selkie? Like, pardon me?
good for Sam Reinhart though.
Yeah, that's good.
He's gonna get such a big contract in the offseason. Might not be from Florida, but he's going to get paid.
I wonder how many times it's happened where it's like that, where two guys on the same team, on the same line at points, both get that many Selkie votes back to back for first place.
Man,
Interesting.
Florida's window is wide open, dude. If they don't do it with this roster, man, it's like, how do you make this team better?
One of
How?
the Sabres' biggest what ifs of the drought. What if the Sabres hired Bill Zito instead of Jason Botterill? What a timeline that could have been to live in.
God, honestly, out of all the GMs that we've had, we've cycled through and they just didn't work out. I have a special place of hatred in my heart for Jason Botterill.
Even though you took a picture with him once.
I did. You know what? You talk to any guy, I'm sure nice enough guy, but just some boneheaded decisions, man. It's like you could it's not even that hard. Like some of the GMs we had, it was like you kind of have to go into a little more, like you have to go into the files a little bit. But Jason Botterill, you could just rattle him off the dome, just like signing a blind goalie, hiring a soccer coach, uh, not the Brandon Hagel debacle. That one really sucks.
You're not even saying there's a special place for him. It's you have a special place of hatred for him.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Jeez.
Oh my god. Moving on, Rick Tocchet is the Jack Adams winner, which it's always funny. These awards always come out at the funniest times. The funniest, it gets announced the day after they lose in a pretty one-sided Game 7. And
Didn't even show up.
I did want to bring up one more award. The Mark Messier Leadership Award. Jacob Trouba. The only award where it gets handpicked by Mark Messier himself.
Oh my, Captain Elbow himself.
Yeah.
Flying elbow.
Really? Jacob Trouba out of all people? Like you didn't want to give it to maybe even I know he gets enough awards, but like even like Connor McDavid or I
Any
mean
other
Nathan
captain.
McKinnon
Any
was a
other captain.
yeah.
He leads his team with elbows. He leads a team with most use of elbows, so it's
Or
something.
Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn would have been a great pick.
All right, getting to the end here, we did have a trade. A trade, actually, like a pretty impactful trade. So Ryan McDonagh is headed back to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Nashville trades him for a second-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft and a seventh-round pick in the 2024 NHL draft. The Lightning also get back the Edmonton Oilers' fourth-round pick in the upcoming 2024 draft. So sleeper blockbuster here going on in the middle of the third round. McDonough's
Yeah.
heading back.
Yeah, you don't really see trades when the playoffs are going on. Like I honestly didn't think you were allowed to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I know you could technically make trades whenever you want. It just depends on like they can't play in certain instances if you trade. I don't know. It's just so weird to see a trade during the playoffs. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's just
so weird.
people avoid it just because, there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, but um something's got to give. The Lightning are now over payroll if they're taking on McDonagh.
And if they want to get Stamkos back, and
Right.
it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
probably, I mean, they're going to try to re-sign him, so there's probably more at play here. It's interesting that they take on all $6.75 million of his contract back onto their books. But Nashville, obviously, this is raising a few eyebrows. Some people think that they might be going after Marner. I don't know if that's realistic. The thing is, they're kind of, it's like the Minnesota Wild with their Parise and Suter buyouts. Nashville has to deal with the Matt Duchene buyout and the, who else they buy out? Was it Johansson they bought out as well? Might have been him. It was someone else. It was those two heavy contracts. So definitely clearing cap. McDonagh was a good player for Nashville this year, so it's not just a nothing loss. Tampa Bay trying to get the band back together. Clearly,
I think I think I could be the first to say Anthony Cirelli, you are a Buffalo Sabre this time.
it might be Hagel. Honestly,
You serious?
I
That'd be
mean,
so
no,
funny.
I don't mean. I definitely don't mean to Buffalo, but I think that might be the guy they go with, considering Sorelli's the center. I don't know. Gonna be interesting. Last thing here. So we, despite this being going on a long time ago, and honestly, we've barely talked about it at all. The Utah whatevers will be coming to the NHL next season. Obviously, some potential names were released, and we never really got the chance to talk about them. So I thought it'd be funny. I'll just list them off. I don't know if you guys have them in front of you, but let me know. Are any of these winners? The Utah Venom, the Utah Caribou, the Utah Freeze, the Blast, the Glaciers, the Outlaws, the Utah Hockey Club, the Squall, the Swarm, the Yeti, the Mammoth, the Mountaineers, the Frost, the Black Diamonds, the Canyons, the Blizzard, the Hive, the Fury, the Ice, and the Powder.
They they all sound like Arena Football League names,
Yeah.
at lacrosse league, like NLL league names, or they're just stupid. Like I think the one I like the best is the Yeti. Um, Utah Powder would be hilarious.
The jokes write themselves. I mean,
They
come on.
really do. Um, yeah, for one, I like the Yeti, but I know a lot of people in Colorado would have a bone to pick with that because they have the Yeti's foot. They don't even
Which
have it on
makes
their
no
jersey
sense with the
anymore.
Avalanche. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
good
like,
logo. It just doesn't make sense.
but they don't even
I,
have the patch on their jerseys anymore. They used to have the foot as their
they don't have
shoulder.
those anymore?
No, I'm pretty sure they
Oh.
don't.
Huh. I don't hate the Mammoth. I really don't.
That's an NLL team name.
Yeah, that's
So like I don't
Colorado
like
Mammoth.
Oh, right, because there's no crossover in any sports with any team names.
That's true.
The
That's
Jets.
true. I'm just that's
There's two
immediately what
Kansas
I
City
thought of.
scouts at the same time in two different sports.
That's wild.
True. Mammoth is a good one though, but it legitimately is another team name already. I feel like I don't know. Maybe some of the snow names could be cool, like the Freeze or
Frost.
Frost. Yeah,
Mountaineers. I don't know. I don't hate it.
I think
That's
have
how
to
it is
wait.
with all team names, though. Like I remember, like when we were going through the process with Vegas. I think Seattle was different because I feel like Kraken was just a perfect name from the start.
Yeah.
But with Vegas, it was everybody wanted the Aces, but then Golden Knights came out and everybody was like, well, that's weird. But then now it's like I don't know. I think it's kind of a good name.
Yeah, I think you need to wait until we see like what their jerseys and logo will actually be.
You think they'd put like colors first and then maybe like try and decide on a name? I feel like
Well, that's
that'd
what
be
they said. They
smarter.
said they're not picking one for this year.
Yeah, I was
That's the
gonna say,
thing.
so probably not.
Oh,
It's just gonna
well,
say Utah across their jerseys.
the Colorado Avalanche haven't used the Yeti foot since the 2014-15 season. That was the
Wow,
last time
that
they had
long, huh?
and they were only shoulder patches. So honestly, like you never had it as a primary crest. You had it as a shoulder patch. You have no right to that name at all, or any sort of like. Well, you didn't even call yourself the Yeti. Like you could have said that was a Bigfoot foot on there or something for all we know. But
I want the Yeti just for the mascot. Like we're getting some absurd mascots in the NHL. We got Gritty. Isn't the Kraken's one? It's something weird too.
Yeah, Biz was like beefing with it for the longest time.
Yeah. So now let's get someone dressed as a Yeti.
or
How about just what
Vegas
about a
as
mammoth? You
Chance or
just have
whatever his
like
name is.
what if the mammoth? It would just be like a 6-person operation as like a single mascot. It's like a giant puppet.
They are supposed to be bringing back the mammoth from extinction, so it might be a good timing.
It's like one of those like Chinese New Year dragons where there's like 10 people behind it
Yeah.
and are underneath it and they all
Yep.
have to like hold it up.
I like the Yeti. I like the mammoth. I love the powder. I fully in on the powder.
What would you make for the logo for that? Would it just be a snowflake?
It would just be a line. Yeah, I think Yeti, mammoth, powder for the memes. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Either mammoth or Yeti. Hopefully the jerseys are cool.
Christian
Yeah, I
will
hope
not
we get
like the
some-
jerseys.
I was gonna
no
say
matter
Christian
what.
already hates them. He doesn't even know what it's gonna be. He already hates them.
I hope it's just some good colorways. Like I saw like a nice like brown with maybe like a I don't know if it was like a teal or something else, but I'm just hoping like the colorways are good. Like I don't hate Vegas's colorway, but I'm not a fan of Seattle's at all.
I hate the gold jerseys.
No, the gold are ugly.
The original Vegas jerseys were awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the black and the gray with the red pipe, like the
Can't
red
believe
striping.
you don't like the Kraken's
I
jersey. It
know,
just doesn't make
there's
sense to me.
They have some elite jerseys.
I don't like the color.
elite color palette.
I like their what was it, Winter Classic? Or is
Yeah,
it
those are
Stadium
sharp.
Series?
Yeah,
I
well,
like
I think it was Winter
those.
Classic.
I don't like their regular day-to-day jerseys. I just don't. It's too much blue.
It's like almost black though. It's like a really I don't know. It's supposed to
It's
be
like
the
a
sea, Matt.
navy blue with a teal.
If you hate
and
the
that's it.
home jerseys, okay, but the away jerseys are beautiful. They're amazing. You won't get me off that.
I mean, I guess I can make a case for that, but
You won't.
I don't think they're anything to write home about. I don't think they like the away ones. They might not be like terrible, but I don't think they're anything above like good or like okay.
We need to do jersey rankings off-season episode.
That would
Man,
be.
we could just do like a whole man. Yeah, we could do like a whole you could probably get like 2 hours of just like ranking jerseys. But
I will.
we-
Yeah.
We have to
Who we-
all do our own and then see what the average is.
we'd put the Sabres at 1. The rotation's too elite. You got the
I
black
don't
and
know,
red.
man. I don't know. I'm not too hot on their home jerseys.
I
Like
saw
I mean, like as hot. Like I don't think they're like a top. I honestly probably wouldn't call them a top 10, or if they are, they're like 9 or 10. Getting back to Utah and back to the NHL talk, we'll see where those designs go. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. It's a pretty long one considering the time of year. A lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of good conversation. Looking ahead here, I think we're going to do an episode shortly after this. We're going to finally kind of take one last look at the season, do our postseason player grades, and I think we'll get some input from you guys, or we'll post some stuff on our socials, and then we'll finally be looking back at our hot takes, which were god-awful. They were god-awful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So stay tuned for that one.
One of them is looking worse and worse as the days go on by our host. We'll get into it.
It's goddamn Rangers. All right, so I think that's pretty much going to do it for this one. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at the Sabre Report. Follow us on Instagram at the Sabre Report. Also on TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube. If you want updates for the pod, follow us at Sabre Report Pod. As always, go give our friends over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast a listen. But I think other than that, thank you guys very much for listening. Take care. And go Sabres.
Go Sabres.
Go Sabres.